This is Roberto Chavez. 8 years ago, he was a stressed out attorney, working late hours, missing his family's milestones. Today, he works from his home office just a few steps away from his kids' playroom, making more money than he ever did as a lawyer. What changed? We taught him the simple strategy to flip land profitably in our flight school program that transformed his life. In today's episode, we'll show you exactly how he did it and how he's doing now. Welcome to Nite Cap.
That's good.
Love it.
It's good, Mark.
Roberto, welcome. Thank you.
Awesome to see everybody.
So on today's podcast, I think it's just tradition to go around and say hello. We've got dude buddy, the Nite Cap OG, Scott Bossman. Scott, how are you?
Doing great, Mark. Glad to be here.
Good to see you. We got handsome Rob, John Burnett. John, how are you?
I'm doing great. I've got kids like on the other side of the door. I'm just listening to all the happy noises. It's great.
Yeah. John has 6 kids. So for those of you that tell me, oh, I don't have time for land investing, boo-hoo. If John can make time, you can. The Zen Master. Breathe in the mailing. Breathe out the marketing. Mike Zano. Mike, how are you?
Great and getting better, sir. Nice to be here.
It's good to see you. And Roberto, I don't, what was your nickname?
You had a drink nickname for me.
Carajillo.
Yeah.
The Carajillo. Roberto Carajillo Chavez. Roberto, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mark. I'm happy to be here, and yeah, it's great to see familiar faces.
Yeah, I love this new Nite Cap podcast format. It's going to be the new podcast. So, Roberto, let's just rewind the tape and talk about your story. Like, how did you get into land investing?
Yeah, I mean, it's I wish there was this amazing story of how I found you guys and something that can be really captivating, but it's really pretty straightforward. I mean, I went to school, followed kind of the traditional path. My parents always told me go to school, get a job, the typical. And I graduated undergrad in 2009 when the financial crisis was at its peak. And so I figured I wasn't going to be able to find a job as an economist, which was my undergrad degree. And so I went off to law school and graduated from law school, found a job at a law firm, and great learning experience. But after, 5-6 years, I realized that lifestyle really wasn't what I envisioned my life to be. And I admired and respected the senior attorneys at the firm, but I really didn't envy their lifestyle in terms of work hours. And so I just started looking for something else. And thank God for podcasts. And so I just started listening to different real estate podcasts because I got into single family homes and figured that wasn't really scalable. And so in one of those podcasts, you were there. I honestly can't remember which one it was because it wasn't long into my podcasting journey that I stumbled onto you. And then I just started listening to your podcast. And from there, I remember like it was yesterday, I jumped on a call with Scott Bossman, talked about flight school, what I could expect, and then went through that process. Then I jumped on a call with you after I finished flight school, and you told me about coaching and what I could expect about coaching. And I really just haven't looked back ever since. I just stepped on the accelerator back in 2018 when I started one-on-one coaching with Tate. And it's just been looking forward since then. And it's been an amazing journey. It's been life-changing, to be honest.
Amazing. Do you remember like what the turning point was that made you realize land investing could be your path to freedom and you could quit your corporate job?
Yeah, when I did that, when I proved the model, it was crazy. I mean, because my return was like $500 and I turned that into maybe $10,000 and that was crazy money like still is, but even back then it was like, what? $10,000? I was making, I don't know if it was $80,000 or $90,000 as an attorney a year, and I did like 1/8 of that or whatever the math comes out to in one transaction, and I had the money in my hand. I was like, this is crazy. Like, if I did this only 8 times, I'd already be making what I make as an attorney. And so, like, that was really, because I'd never seen, well, personally been part or made possible a transaction of that size and really seeing the fruits of flipping land. So that first deal was like, okay, I'm sold, and I'm gonna do this as many times as humanly possible because this is awesome.
Yeah, it makes me think of family. So we might as well go to John, who's got 27 kids. And like, imagine, John, it's your dream to have an attorney in the family. And then they tell you, oh, Dad, I'm flipping dirt and I'm making more money doing that. So I think I'm going to quit. I'm going to do that full time. What would you say?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that it sounds like you just be incredulous, right? You're like, wait, what? You're leaving this thing? Like, are you joining something crazy? Is this multi-level marketing? Like, what is it like that's going on? And I mean, I got similar reactions for sure, jumping into my own business too. Like, because you're leaving something that feels stable into something else. And you prove the model yourself, and then eventually you prove it to everybody else,
Yeah, yeah. And I was in Mexico with Roberto and his family. So I met his family. They're all really nice and supportive. But I'm just curious, Roberto, like, did you have to have like this difficult conversation with your parents?
Not, I mean, it wasn't difficult because I was 100% set. So it was more of an informing rather than asking for permission or anything like that. But my dad was kind of yeah, he had his reservations, and he didn't tell me directly, but he told my sister after I had the conversation with him. So that for him to actually speak up about it meant that he really had reservations about it. But I think he trusted me enough to know that if I was making that decision, it was because I had already kind of factored everything into the equation. So he was really nice, and now he's asking me about like the land deals that I'm doing, and he's curious and he wants to know. So like I can see his excitement about it now, and I think he's come around it. I guess it's not as cool for him to say that his son is a land flipper rather than an attorney, but he sees that I'm happier, so I don't think he cares that much, really.
Yeah, yeah. You know what's cool is being able to work when you want, where you want, with whom you want.
Right.
Right. So that I think that freedom's cool. Dude, buddy, what questions do you have for Roberto before you're no longer sober on Nite Cap?
Nice. Oh man. For years now, you're portraying me as this drunk. No, I'm just kidding.
Not at all. I think you're a fun late night nightcap drinker.
Oh, okay.
But there's been many an episode where by the end, words have been slurred.
I've never fallen asleep. I've never fallen asleep on a nightcap, like Zano. So I guess what I'd say is this, Roberto. A lot of people are tuning in for the first time. They've never heard of us before. They're like, what the heck is land investing? I believe you only need a few things in order to do this business, right? You need a little bit of time, a little bit of money. You need a drive, right? Some type of internal drive. You need the ability to follow a recipe. But like, what are some other things that come to mind that helped you in your journey? Like, what characteristics does somebody need to have in order to push through and in just a few years' time quit their job and realize time freedom?
Yeah, no, I mean, you mentioned some of the main attributes and things that people need to have. I think the only thing that I would add to that list would be like all of those things plus like focus, and because it's very easy to get shiny object syndrome, and there's other forms of generating money and flipping other things and doing whatever, but like really focusing in and saying, okay, I'm not looking at anything else for the next 3 years, 4 years, whatever it takes. That to me marked the difference, because before land investing, I was looking at the single family homes, maybe other types of real estate investments. And I don't want to say spread thin, but I was just kind of dabbling in different things. But when I found the land business, it was like everything else evaporated, and I was laser focused on making this work. And so I think it's sometimes very easy for people to get into this business as just one of those things that they're dabbling in. And I don't think that's the way to make it work. You might be able to make some money, but it's not really going to become your thing unless you're hyper focused and just set on making this work, and not looking at other forms of flipping whatever else is out there.
Yeah, and I mean, like literally, I take that so literally. For me personally, that I won't even flip a burger. Like I'm that laser focused on just land. Zen Master, what about you? What are your what questions do you have for Roberto?
Two quick ones. The first one, Roberto, you mentioned focus several times when you just answered that question. I think a lot of people have difficulty getting into deep focus, doing deep work. Do you have any tips or tricks or tactics that help you, if you want to, get something done in the business and getting into some deep focus with family, kids, whatnot?
Yeah. I mean, I guess, big picture wise, you have to have kind of that drive to feed the focus. But kind of more low level ideas that come to mind. I started about a year and a half or 2 years ago, really looking at my week and planning out what I do each day.
Mhm.
And kind of, because we all follow, I because of the Land Geek program, I follow the 12-week year. And so every 12 weeks I have set goals, and then I just reverse engineer what those goals are into what I need to do every week. And it goes to the granular point where it's like, okay, Wednesdays from 12 to 1, I'm going to be focusing on X, Y, and Z. And so it's writing those things down and really sticking to it as much as possible. It's not bulletproof, and you're not always going to follow through to the dot, but to the extent you have the practice of scheduling in the blocks of time to do specific things that really kind of move the business forward, I think you're in good shape.
It's really interesting too, just hearing some of the principles you're using and how some of the principles we teach in flight school and how they're still carrying through all these years later with you in your business. You're talking about, in one way or another, you're reverse engineering. Maybe there's probably some swim lanes in there, all these things that are fundamental to the process of building your business in flight school. But here they are carrying you forward all these years later. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, good principles. They're solid, and they survive the test of time. I mean, because they work.
Right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I heard about the 12-week year. I heard about swim lanes in 2017, 2018, and to this day, they still kind of keep me in check. So they work. They work for sure.
The second part of my question, real quick, was, you escaped, from this circumstance that many people are in, corporate life or work life. Yeah, I gotta imagine somebody came looking for you from the old life. Like, what happened, Roberto? How'd you get out? Like, does anybody come looking for you and looking for breadcrumbs?
No, I've kind of been hiding from that world. I don't let myself be found by them anymore. But no, I mean, it's more kind of closer friends that are curious and ask me like, what did you do? Like, how's it going? And they're curious, but I guess they don't really understand kind of the holistic approach we have to it. To them, it's just kind of like just a different job. Maybe they don't see it like the lifestyle really that we're pursuing. which is kind of that time freedom aspect, which to me is kind of center, and it's in front of everything else. It's kind of shaping my life around a business model that allows me to have that freedom. So yeah, I mean, people ask and we chat about it, but yeah, I think unless you start doing it and you're immersed in the community and other people who do this full time, it's really hard to grasp and really appreciate the beauty of what the land business offers.
Sounds like the Matrix, Mark, doesn't it? Like you
does.
escape the Matrix. This is going to be like the Matrix 5, land investing.
No, I love it. I love it.
Oh, here we go.
So, Handsome Rob, what are your thoughts?
Oh my God.
What questions do you have for Roberto?
Yeah, I'm curious kind of what your schedule looked like. So when you first jumped into this, like, was it easy or hard to commit the time to this? Like, how did you fit it around your job and your life?
Yeah, I mean, flight school was at night, so that was great. It was back in the day when it was with Scott, so that worked out. And so it was just after hours. It was from 5:36 on, and then throughout the day, wherever like I could fit, answering calls from sellers and responding and creating marketing material here and there as I could. That'd be where I would fit it in. At the time, I was dating my now wife Maria, and we talk about this because when I told her about the land business and that I was buying this toolkit and I was kind of jumping into it, that when I first saw that it worked with that first land flip, I told her, okay, this is legit, and I think this can really be a path to something pretty amazing. So we both agreed that like Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays we wouldn't see each other like in the afternoon after work, because I was going to be working in the land business. And then Tuesdays and the weekend, yeah, I mean, I would like fit in maybe a little bit of land work, but it was also time to spend with her. But we kind of talk about how that period was really important, because I mean, there was sacrifice in spending time with each other, but it was for a greater good. We didn't know how good it was going to be, but definitely worth it. So yeah, I mean, at first when I had a full-time job, it required some more planning and strategy on where I could fit in the time to work the land business, but totally worth it. I mean, I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
I love it. I love it. You know, in those early days when things are tough and there's uncertainty, there's doubt, there's fear, what was your mindset? How did you get through those darker days of embracing the suck? Because let's face it, whenever you start anything new, you just suck, and you have to kind of get your reps in. You need to get through it.
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of those. I think I kind of saw like there wasn't really an alternative, but just to keep pushing through. Again, I think having gone through the buying and the selling of land once was kind of that anchor that when it was tough, I knew it could be done. And the alternative to not keep pushing to get it done was never ending 8 to 5. That was really not an option. And so I think going back to like that time that it did work kind of kept feeding me like, okay, you can push through it, because the alternative isn't much better. So you need to make it work.
So good. So good. Yeah. I mean, it's like burning the boats, right? It's just that the power of commitment. So, dude, buddy, what questions do you have for Roberto? I'm so sick of my own voice already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not sick of your voice, Mark. Never. We hear your voice throughout the night in our dreams, for sure. So I think that I think everything we're getting at here is like, what does it take to be a land investor? And I think another really important thing that it takes is you need to give yourself some permission to make some mistakes, right? And you also need to commit to maybe a pathway or a journey that's a little bit intimidating to you, right? Because that's where growth is going to occur. So Roberto, can you talk about that a little bit? Like, you made mistakes, and you hit dips along the way. Like, how did you push through during the really difficult times?
I mean, I went through coaching twice. And so when I had my biggest dips in learning how to grow a business, how to hire people, how to automate things, I was very fortunate that I had somebody to reach out to. And so I had a mentor, I had a coach. Tate was there. I mean, you guys, I mean, everybody in the community, they were open to give a helping hand. And so I think it does mark a huge difference when you're out there doing it alone. And I mean, let's say I stumbled upon land business through my real estate attorney career. I think the experience would have been much different, because that would have been just me with my legal brain trying to figure out how to flip land. Whereas here, I was talking to people who had 10 years of experience living and doing what I was dreaming of being able to do. So whenever those hard times came by, I mean, I was just a Voxer, a text away, a base camp message away from trying to get some type of resolution. And sometimes there isn't a straight answer, and it's just more of moral support. Like, hey, I mean, that happens, you know. Sometimes you miss, sometimes you lose a sale that you thought was there. Sometimes people stop paying for your land. Sometimes you didn't do the due diligence the way you should have done it. Like, sometimes it's just hearing from somebody else that has a lot more experience, that they've gone through that, and it's okay, and you just keep going forward. And so, yeah, I mean, the community was priceless.
I love
Awesome.
that. I love that. Handsome Rob, what questions do you have?
So if you were to go back in time and talk to 2017, 2018 Roberto, what would you tell him, knowing what you know now?
Buy more land, but it's never going to be as cheap. Like, I would have taken so many loans. Like, you have no idea what. Like, I would have taken everybody's money left and right and bought like just as much land as physically possible. I mean, I say that jokingly, but kind of seriously, because yeah, I mean, I feel like every time, well, at least since I've been in the land business, land keeps getting more expensive and more expensive. And so it's always a good time to buy land. And 2017, 2018 was an amazing time to buy land. So I mean, I would say that. And on a more serious note, I would like, I wish I would have. I mean, I think I did enjoy the ride, but I was really focused on growing and everything. And I feel like those were the good old times when you're just kind of bootstrapping everything and starting your business. And I mean, now I look back at it with a little bit of nostalgia. And I mean, those days aren't coming back in a way. So I would just try. I would tell myself to savor those hardships a little bit more, and those struggles that kind of lead to the promised land a little bit more.
So good. Zen Master, what are your thoughts?
I'm curious, Roberto, when you left your job as an attorney, how old were you?
2021, that makes me what, 34, 35.
And so if you had not done that, how many more years would you have worked in that role?
So
If
what
you
do you
hadn't
mean?
retired, how many more years would you have been an attorney? Like you'd be an attorney now, and how till you're 60? To you, like how what would you be in your retirement?
Oh yeah, there's attorneys there who are in their 70s, close to 80s, and I suppose many of them keep working because they like it, and it's kind of it's what they want to do. I would have retired probably as soon as I could financially, but yeah, there's
So
people there
20,
who work
25 years, 30 years possibly that
30
you
more years. Yeah,
shaved off of. That's a lot of time.
yeah. I mean,
When you think of
it's
it
a
that way.
different type of, at least for now, it's a different 4 years of a lifestyle that would have been much different. I mean,
Right.
just now, some of you know that are listening, and you guys know I have a 1.5-year-old, and so many days I'm in the morning, I wake up and I'll be with him, and Maria will go to the gym and I'll stay with him until 9:30, 10, and then she comes back, and then I'll start working in the land business, and then I get off at 4:30, and I'm back to helping out with the kid, and we shower him together. And so it's a lot of time that I dictate that I spend with him. Whereas at the firm, I mean, I really didn't. I didn't dictate my time. I would have to go on Saturdays, sometimes Sundays. The the times they expected me to be there were from 8 to 5:36 on the conservative side. So if I had aspirations of growing within that law firm, or really any law firm, because those are the expectations in the corporate world, I would have been expected to work many, many more hours. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's I mean, I've already won 4 years of much better lifestyle thanks to the land business, for sure.
How about a real quick tip for somebody that's out there? I know there are people out that they bought their first few properties. They might be struggling selling them. Any advice, any thoughts? Just it can be frustrating to get that first sale, which creates
Yeah.
momentum. Just curious, people listening right now, any suggestions, any tidbits, motivation to sell?
Yeah, that's probably the most frustrating thing, I think, when something is taking a while to sell.
Mhm.
And I guess to the extent this helps is I have properties on inventory that haven't sold in more than a year and a half. I mean, of course, I'm at a different stage in the business, but to the degree they can buy more land, if they're completely vested in the business, the more land you have, the easier it is to sell. Uh, but if they're wanting to make that one sell, I mean, we always talk about it. There's other avenues. There's wholesaling. There's land arbing the property,
Right.
and really, it's having conversations with buyers. I mean, every no is one closer to a yes, and that's just the reality of things. And so don't get discouraged by all of those no's, because those are getting you closer to a yes, because everything does sell eventually. So keep pushing.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So, Roberto, how has life changed for you? Like walk us through a day in life. Like we know Maria works out.
Yeah.
What's your day look like?
Yeah. Yeah. So typically, our alarm wakes up at around 6 or 6:30, and so that's the time that he likes to wake up. So we usually wake up with him, and so we'll have breakfast. Maria usually goes to the gym in the morning, and so she'll go, and I'll play with him, just be with him, and look after him until maybe around 9:30 or 10ish. Then I'll go to my office, and I'll work there from 10:30 to around 3:30, more or less. So that's 11, 12, 11, yeah, about 5 hours maybe. And then I'll go to the gym, and then I'll come back home, and I'm around here around 5:30, and we have dinner together and play around with Santino a little bit more, shower him, put him to bed, and then we put him to bed around this time, so it's 7:30 our time, and then it's just kind of our time for Maria and myself.
Does that include a carajillo?
That always includes on Fridays it includes a carajillo.
Right, so, okay. Like, I think it should be like Nite Cap tradition now for you, Maria, to come on, drink, his and hers carajillos.
What is carajillo? Tell us. What are we missing here?
Oh, Mike.
Sounds like a drink I want.
You're so white. What's a carajillo? Roberto, just tell him.
So I need to look it up to see it's a liquor and coffee. So the liquor it's liquor 43, and so it's a sweet, like a digestive licorice drink. I'm not sure. I think it derives from
Sounds healthy.
From brandy. I'm not sure where the derivative
Kind of like Sambuca.
What's that?
Kind of like Sambuca, that black licorice anise flavoring.
I don't know. No, this one's a little bit more kind of on the sweeter side. And so basically you combine that with a shot of espresso, of just coffee.
It's fantastic.
It sounds like a Zano drink.
You sip it or you throw it?
No. You sip it. It's like after dinner. So it kind of, it's supposed to help. I think it originated in Spain. And so it's for your digestive system to kind
I'm all about health, Roberto. So can you spell how do you spell that? I need to look up this healthy drink.
So it's LICOR 43.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
But I think the drink itself is CARAJILLO. Is that right?
Yes. Carajillo is the name of the drink, which is basically combining those two things.
Yeah.
Good tip.
Yeah, it's really good. It's
tip of the week right there.
That is a tip.
That'll be my next Nite Cap drink. Digesting. That's all I'm doing is digesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's way better than, what's that? The hot drink right now for your gut.
Kombucha or
kombucha.
Kombucha.
Yeah, it's way healthier than kombucha.
Not good. Yeah,
I like a little kombucha. Mark, you a kombucha guy?
I've had it. I wouldn't say I'm a kombucha guy.
You dabbled in it.
I've dabbled. I'm not afraid. I've dabbled. So before this goes off the rails, dude, buddy, what land question do you have for Roberto?
What land question?
Or just what question do you have about him, his business?
I mean, I think we covered so much. We have a question from the audience. I'm going to cheat. How about I do that?
That's great.
So we have a question from Chris Merkline for you, Roberto. Chris, my fellow Wisconsinite, the snow's coming, buddy. Did you build out your tech stack, Roberto, and the automations yourself, or did you hire that stuff out?
Oh no, I hired that stuff out. I'm young, but unfortunately the tech side avoids me or evades me, whatever the word is. So I've been learning a little bit on like Zapier. I've been having some fun with that, but like connecting Airtables and doing all of that, I've hired people to do that because it's not the best use of my time. I'm not going to do it fast enough to justify me spending time on that. And I mean, we have access to the entire world at this point with the internet, so it's really a no-brainer to hire somebody for $15 an hour to do that, something that will take them maybe an hour or two to do. So yeah, most of my tech stuff I've hired it out.
I love it. I can't wait until like we all have C3POs in our home, and it's just going to do everything.
It's
Like
coming.
it's just going to be like, oh yeah, C3PO, create my tech stack and automate this, and it'll like be have an API to like all the LLMs. It'll just do it, and that it's like, okay, make me a Carahio.
That's a dangerous game to have somebody to make them on demand.
Yeah, I mean, my prediction is 10 years from now, I'll be unrecognizable. I'll be looking like one of those people from what was that movie where it's like the robots do everything for you and all the humans just get fat. They're sipping everything through a straw.
Wally.
Yeah, I'm gonna be one of those Wally people. Yeah, I just can't be bothered. My own personal dystopia. Handsome Rob, what questions do you have for Roberto?
I guess, did you have any points that felt like a make it or break it point for land investing?
A make it or break it.
Were you down to your last dollar? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, or like, I don't know. I guess I'll give an example. Valerie and I, we had this point where we were in this super busy season of life, and we came this close to hitting the pause button on our land investing business for like a month. And I think that probably would have been the end of it if we had. And so, yeah, I'm just curious if there was anything like that you kind of went through.
No, but I did. I mean, I don't think I had anything where I came close to pausing the land business. I did make the mistake of pausing my mailers for a while, and it's a rookie mistake because you hear it all the time through flight school. Don't stop mailing, but I was running low on funds, and instead of kind of scaling back, I just stopped. And so there was like a huge void of like 2-3 months where there wasn't any intake or much action. And I had sold like all the land that I had at that point in time. So it was like I wasn't like I made that mistake, which I have never done again. But that's kind of the closest I came to like really making a land mistake in terms of, okay, this made me lose time and opportunities, but nothing that ever made me kind of think like, okay, this might be the end of my land business. Fortunately, unfortunately, that never happens.
Yeah, I just saw that question pop up, and I get this all the time. People ask me on the podcast, like, what are the downsides of land investing? And I struggle, and I'm sort of always embarrassed because in every other business or every other real estate niche, it's so obvious what are the downsides. But in our niche, I always kind of say what Roberto said, which is like, well, people just stop their deal flow out of fear, and that's not really a great answer. Zen Master, what's the downside?
Well, that's not the downside. They stop mailing. I mean, that's the business is going to stop flowing. But the overall downside of land, I mean, it's kind of a loaded question mark. I don't really see a negative.
Is it taxes?
I mean, could it be
well,
like
people think it's taxes sometimes, but then I tell them most of us follow a profit first mentality where we allocate the money as soon as it's received, right? It goes into a certain account. So yeah, you have to pay taxes, but the money is sitting there ready to be paid if you follow that mentality. So I don't think that's a huge downside. It's just something we have to account for. I don't know.
what are the gotchas in this business? Can you screw up and do the gotchas, like screwing up in due diligence? Like I bought the side of a mountain before.
Yeah. Or someone asked me today, Mark, hey, can I, sometimes on the, the county doesn't have the deed available readily, the image, but they say the that the clerk's office or the whatnot of the assessor, they actually copy that information, and I can just look at it on the site and I can see the same information. Is that good as seeing the deed? And I'm like, no, that's like you just said, that's would be a quick mistake, a downside if you skip proper due diligence. You need to see that deed. You need to see who's on it. You can't rely that the person transcribed it onto the website. So I think a downside could be, rushing, got to have landitis, we used to say. Remember that word? We haven't talked about that in a while. And maybe not following the formula. The reason why we all stay safe is 25, 30 cents on the dollar. We're not going to feel like there's like Tate always says, there's no land emergency. We need to buy this now. Like, if that's the case, then there's something wrong, right? So I would say the downside is if you don't follow a formula, if you don't follow a proven path, if you don't follow a recipe, you could start to go off script. And off script, like, you won't end up with brownies. You'll end up with something that's not very edible. So I think the downside is maybe just building it incorrectly.
That's a good answer. I'm going to steal that.
I kept talking until I found something.
No, it's good. It's good. You found your way to it. You found your way to the answer. It was a circuitous journey, but you got there. Roberto, Billy Swinton has an interesting question.
Okay.
He's got $10K to start with. Would you recommend putting that into land or a back office business marketing for the business? What do you think?
Back office business marketing for the business. I mean, I think you have to start with land. I mean, that's the product we use. I'm not sure what back office and business means. I would leave maybe some money for marketing, but I would put the bulk of it into buying land. I mean, that's where it is. I mean, that's where you can really turn your money around. And so, to the degree you don't, and this might kind of come to addressing the question, you don't need a website. It took me the longest time to build a website. You don't need an LLC. It took me the longest to do an LLC. Like you don't need to have all of these things that people think you need to have, this beautiful logo or whatever. Like, all those things can wait. You need to buy land and test the model and see where you have issues and where the community can help you and where you need to work on. But the only way to do that is to get your hands dirty, and that's by buying land and holding land and marketing the land and selling it.
I love it. OG Dave Parmerly is on. I see him. What's up, Dave? Good to see you, brother. Dude, buddy, there's another question in here.
All right, let's see. Aaron Fields. Realistically, let's just pass this around. Or we'll hit John Burnett up with this one. Realistically, John, how much upfront cash does someone need to start a business like this?
I'm gonna give the super frustrating "it depends" answer.
Yeah.
Basically, like, you can hit this from a variety of different starting points. What a
cop-out answer, by the way.
I know. Whatever you want. Yeah. No, but I think
I'm next president of the United States, John Burnett.
But I'm gonna. Mike said this one, so I'm stealing this pretty much directly from him. But
feel free to quote me. This is exciting.
Yeah, I'm just gonna claim it for myself. But when it comes to this business, like, you can buy properties for $500. You could buy properties for $5,000, right? Both of those product types work, right? And early on, it's really about effectively building the system. You want to build the machine, right? And you can do that with $500 things. You can do that with $5,000 things, right? So my general thought is, like, I think it's good to have something like $5,000, right? And that puts you in a spot where you can acquire property, you can market, right? And then you can sub in, like, you can start with $500 things, you can switch to $5,000 things, and that works. So, people hit this from a variety of different starting points. And then, in my own business, when I was building this, my general philosophy was, like, I want to maintain my momentum no matter what, right? But I want to do that in a way that's sensible. And so I would do things like I bought a ton of land arb from Tate, right? Like I've done dozens and dozens of land arb deals with Tate, and I did very well off of those. But you buy on terms, you sell that same property on terms. When you net everything out, the holding costs are extremely low. So I did that a lot. You can do investor funding and stuff like that if you need to, and just be smart about it. So that leverage is attached to specific properties. So there's opportunity for creativity, whether you're using your own money, using other people's money, or just taking advantage of other opportunities.
All right, I apologize. That was a good answer, Roberto.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have anything you'd add to that?
No, I mean he kind of, it was all encompassing because it really does depend. So no, I really don't have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, I mean it's so funny because like we have 16-year-olds doing this business successfully, and 70-year-olds doing this business successfully. So you have people who have no money, but lots of grit and lots of time and lots of creativity. Then you have people with money, but they literally have no business experience and because we're geeky, like no tech experience, and they just problem solve and they just follow the recipe. But I think that the secret is just not getting overwhelmed. It's like, all right, I have a problem to solve. Who's going to solve it for me? And I think it was John that said, we just have access to global talent. Maybe it was Roberto. I forget. I know it wasn't Mike.
I'll take credit. That's great.
Yeah, for sure. Because Mike's just like, Laura, can you do this?
Mark, you know what's awesome? Is something Roberto just said about momentum, because you can build momentum with a $500 property as quickly as you can with a $5,000 property. So if you had a small amount of money and you're buying these small $500-$600 properties and you're selling them, it doesn't matter if you're getting $50-$60 a month. You're turning that money into 3 to 4x what you bought it for, and you're building systems, you're building workflow, you're building momentum, and you can always scale up. So I think that's just a powerful thing Roberto said about momentum, and it really resonates with me in that way. It's like, how powerful is that, right? You're building the same it's like the same as when you have a kid who's an athlete in a small town, but he builds the confidence that he can now go compete in a larger level, but he's in a small little pond, right? But he's doing these small, but he's able to now, because he has the self-confidence, he feels like, man, I'm the shit. Like I'm the bomb. I can go compete with these people. You can do the same thing with $50 deals a month, $500 properties, and build that same confidence and momentum.
I appreciate the credit, Mike, but that was John who talked about momentum.
Jeez,
we swapped.
It's turning into the John show. We gotta be careful here. What's going on?
It's okay. I took one from you, Mike, so it's just great.
All right, but now it's yours.
Round and round we go.
Round and around we go.
I love
Welcome
it.
to the John Burnett Show.
Cheers to John.
Here's to John.
Everybody have a drink to John.
Cheers.
Every time someone says the word John, everybody needs a drink. Okay.
It's a new drinking game. So, John. Okay, so Roberto, let's make the argument to Erin Fields and her husband. Why, with all the millions of ways to earn money in this world, why land investing?
There's a lot of reasons why land investing, but I guess I'll tackle the ones I feel are the most obvious. Real estate is a great tool to create wealth, and I think of all the assets within real estate, land requires the least amount of maintenance, and so you're kind of entering the real estate world, which is kind of I heard a quote somewhere, but it's kind of the last frontier where the average man can become wealthy or a millionaire or something like that. And we're picking a specific asset within that industry that gives you a lot of flexibility in the management side of things. So, I mean, we don't go look at 99.9% of the properties that we buy. Like we're just I mean, I don't mean to degrade what we do, but I mean, we're just transferring ownership in through papers. I mean,
We're shuffling paper,
we're
making
shuffling paper, yeah, and we don't have to send a a guide for termites and like what you say, Mark. Like, there's nothing that needs to be upkept with these properties. So the freedom and the peace of mind that that provides is not available in your other real estate classes. I mean, assets. And so with houses, with commercial, everything else, there's much more things and people involved that open the doors to more headaches and more issues and things that keep you up at night. So that's what I would say about land.
I love that. I love that you said the average man, where when I think of it, I think of myself as the below average man. Can make millions in real estate. So dude, buddy, my argument would be you get a one-time sale, you get recurring passive income every single month, no renters, no rehabs, no renovations, no rodents. And it's a simple game. Can you create enough land notes where your passive income exceeds your fixed expenses with this unique asset, as Roberto was talking about, nothing to maintain, nothing to protect, can't be destroyed. Pandemics, no problem. Business went up, right? Recession, no problem. Land's on sale. Let's buy more. What else could happen? And so,
Well, you can. Oh,
yeah.
sorry, I thought you asked me.
No, go ahead. No, I am.
You can scale. You can scale this thing, right? This is a scalable business. You can build systems, and you can utilize. You can leverage other help. You can leverage people, and you can leverage tools and technology to get to the point where you're doing this at like an hour a day. The 4-hour work week. First time I ever heard that book, I was working 50 plus hours a week. And that was like completely unattainable to me. Like I couldn't even fathom that. This could be a 4-hour work month with land investing, right?
Right.
If you build it to that point. So
and,
it's
yeah,
completely
and
scalable.
that's the secret. Is like, like John, he works because he's got 6 kids and he has to show them that I work. But like, it's a machine that you're building so that you can travel around the world. And I loved seeing the pictures of Roberto and Maria. I think they were traveling in Europe and he's still making money. And his borrowers are still paying his bills while he's doing what he wants. And his team is doing the work and following the recipe. And I think that's the truly passive piece of it. Now, technically speaking, I don't think anything's passive, right? You earn $1 billion. You still have to do something with the billion, right? To earn the interest income. And so, and I don't even make the argument like, doing nothing is probably not healthy as a human being anyways. But to my definition of passive, where you build it one time and it continues to earn income so that you can live your best life. You can solve not just your money problems, and solve just your time problems, right? Like Mike was in Maine this week seeing a buddy and still making money doing it. So, we all have our own stories. Scott, I love his stories. Like I got sick and I didn't have to call HR. I could just be sick and I didn't have to worry about work or calling anybody. I didn't have to worry about PTO or any of that stuff. Like I could just be sick and take care of myself and the bills are still being paid because of the business. And the work's still getting done. For sure.
It's hard sometimes, even when I get sick now, we've been so programmed to the other lifestyle, or like there's something in me that it feels guilty about being sick and not being productive. But I think that's more of a mental hurdle sometimes that you just kind of have to overcome. But yeah, it's true. I mean, you can be sick, but sometimes it's hard to get out of your own head, I feel.
Yeah, I love it. So I think it was John that asked the question, like, what's like the best advice you would give a newbie? I want to flip it. What's the worst advice you see or hear given in land investing today?
Was that who were you asking?
Well, Roberto, it's your show, brother. So you start. You can pass the talking stick, the mic.
No, his name is running on the banner at the bottom here, which I've been jealous of the whole show. Like, when did my name run at the bottom?
I saw that at the beginning, and I was like, "Wow, that's really cool!" Like, you guys put my name there and everything. But so, what's the worst advice in the land business? Well, it's actually, I guess it's partly. I think there's a misconception that you need a lot of money to be able to be successful in the land business, and I think John already alluded to it. That's not really the case. I mean, you just need to be creative. You need to have that drive and focus. And I mean, with a couple $1,000s, you can grow this into something really big, because that's what I did. I mean, I didn't start off with $20,000, not even $10,000. I mean, it was just a couple $1,000s that kind of bootstrapped, and I just kept feeding it. I was fortunate that I didn't need the land business to feed me and support my day-to-day. So I was able to feed everything back into it for 3-4 years. But yeah, I mean, I think there's this misconception like, oh, well, you do land investing, you must be like rich to even get started with that. And that's not really the case.
I love it. Well, we only have 2 minutes left. Dude, buddy, you want to land the plane?
Yeah, well, I would just be on the lookout. So for everybody who's watching, please join us next week. We're gonna feature one of our Land Geek coaches next week, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about scaling the land business. Right. So I don't know who we're having on yet, but we're gonna have a Land Geek coach on the call. And we didn't get to the giveaways tonight, but if you guys go to the description in the comments, you can fill out a Google form to be eligible to win a few copies of, or to be eligible to win copies of Dirt Rich and Dirt Rich 2 signed by none other than Mark Podolsky, the Land Geek. I don't have a signed copy, but that's fine.
Signed copy either.
Me neither.
I already entered my name in the drawing.
There you
go. Yeah, exactly.
So, but no, I just want to say thank you to Roberto for coming on, and your story is very, very inspiring. And
Thanks for having me.
It's just another data point, right? Of many data points that this works. And Mark, you've helped hundreds of people, and I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to you, obviously. And maybe that's how we should end the call, with a toast to Mark Podolsky.
I'm not going to say no. Thank you.
To Mark,
to you guys,
the Land Geek. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for having me, guys. Great to see you.
Thank you.
Talk to you guys later.
Thanks, Roberto.
Bye.
Cheers.